Hi, in this video we're going to be covering rentals for landlords, specifically the landlord process, understanding the terms, the tenant rental process, as well as disclosures and addendums. Please keep in mind that this is specifically for REMAX Premier. Even other REMAX franchises may not follow the same procedure, so please ensure that you understand this is specifically for REMAX Premier landlord or rental processing. We take your rental property very seriously. Your rental is an important investment, and finding the right tenants for your property is key to a successful and stress-free rental process. Transactions can get complex, especially in today's real estate market. So finding an agent that keeps up with the changes in contracts and the market, and one that will guide you through the process, is an important decision you need to make. Please make sure that you understand all the paperwork and contracts that will legally bind you. Sometimes one word can make a huge difference in a contract or offer terms. Our goal in this video is to give you an overview of the REMAX Premier process. If you have specific questions, please consult either an attorney or ask your agent for references. So the rental listing agreement is an agreement between the landlord and the broker and the agent. There are two rental representations. There's the landlord agent and the tenant agent, and each agent owes fiduciary duties to their clients. The landlord agent will list and market the property, get the online application ready, review the application, communicates with the landlord, coordinate with the NTN for processing, creation of the lease after application acceptance or providing a rejection letter, also communicates with the tenants and their agent, and handles all required money and actually the paperwork appropriately. The tenant agent shows tenants different properties and guides them through the application and the lease process. We want to make sure that you have a full understanding of the tenant laws. We have the URL here, and your agent will be able to provide you with a PDF, but you can also download and read the Tenant Act and the Landlord Law references online as well. We always recommend that you have a copy of the latest version of this. Again, we are not lawyers, so for specific legal questions, please consult an attorney. Now, one of the disclosures that we want to go over is the military clause. And what is a military clause and why do I need one? So transfers are part of a military life and don't always come only when expected. A military clause basically allows a military member to terminate a lease if transferred. VRLTA automatically includes a military clause in every residential lease, even if the lease is exempt from other sections of the VRLTA. It allows a military tenant to terminate a lease if he or she receives PCS orders to a duty station more than 35 miles from the rental property, or TAD orders for over 3 months to a duty station that is more than 35 miles from the rental property, or orders to report to government quarters, or is released from active duty. The military tenant must give the landlord written notice at least 30 days in advance and provide a copy of the orders. The lease can't be terminated more than 60 days before the member must depart under the orders. The VRLTA does not permit the landlord to change your liquidated damages when you terminate the lease due to receiving PCS orders. So please ensure that you understand this clause and how it works, and ask for more details from your agent or your attorney. What does your agent do? Your agent will list and market the property, bring in interested tenants, and assist in processing, communicating, and handling all of the paperwork. We want to emphasize here that we do not make decisions on behalf of the landlord. We do use the NTN service provider, which is a National Tenant Network Screening Service. In there, they do national criminal background check for each applicant, employment verification, a credit check. They also check landlord references. Now, we have to include our disclaimer here to ensure that the landlord knows and acknowledges that the broker and the agent are being retained solely for real estate agent and not as an attorney, tax advisor, lender, appraiser, surveyor, structural engineer, mold or air quality expert, home inspector, or any other professional service providers. So if you are seeking professional advice on any of these, please find the professional that actually services these services. So step 1, meeting with your agent and understanding the process. Again, after this video, please outline anything that you may have, any kind of questions, so that you can discuss it in detail with your agent. Now, if you live out of state or out of the country, you can always do a webinar or a Skype so you can communicate, and again, outline all of that, as well as expectations from your agent. The second one is understanding the Virginia Residential and Landlord Tenant Act. Again, we always recommend that you download a copy of this. And if you have a personal lease or a common law lease and you wish to use that, you're going to have to handle that process because REMAX Premier does not provide processing or handling anything outside of VRLTA. And the reason for that is because state of Virginia is now utilizing VRLTA lease. REMAX Premier uses VRLTA in order to protect our landlords. Now, the lease details, this is something that you're going to sit down with your agent and outline what you're comfortable putting on the lease, who will be responsible for what, how long to rent for minimum and maximum terms, the price of the property for rental, as well as security and other deposit amounts, maintenance and repair fees and service call requirements, utilities and other costs, what will be included and not included, any other leased services such as security service or yard maintenance, etc. Then review the lease and outline the questions you may have to get answered. Now, the documents, obviously we're going to have to provide some of the documents such as the Homeowners Association or Condo Rules and Regulations documents. These will specifically outline rules and regulations for pets, parking, moving fees, etc. Whether or not the pets are allowed and the types of pets that are allowed. Now, please understand that if they do have a comfort or a service animal, that they're not under pets, that they're not considered pets. So there are special clauses for that. Whether or not you're going to allow smoking, and then the county vouchers such as Section 8. And you can understand the process to get that approved if you choose to offer that. As well as lead-based paint for properties that were built before 1978, and other disclosures and addendums. Again, we're going to go over the pets, the pet sizes and types, and in addition to these, obviously there are so many more different animals that they can add, such as horses, fish, snakes, turtles, etc. So please understand again that there has to be an understanding for the service or the comfort animals that will not fall under the pet clause. Number 6, the document flow. We use the global standard for e-signatures, which is DocuSign. You could utilize this on your computer or even on your mobile device to quickly sign and securely send documents back and forth. Now, there are specific forms to understand, so please go over this with your agent, such as the disclosures we discussed, the end-to-end processing, the earnest money, the walkthrough process, and the listing agreement. So the signatures, there are going to be at least 3 different documents that you'll need to sign, as well as any other disclosures that may require your signature. The first one being the rental listing agreement. The second is the earnest money disclosure. The third one, NTN application, credit processing, and any other disclosures such as lead-based paint, etc. So for the earnest money option, again, this is for REMAX Premier, there are 2 separate options. The option 1 is the first month's rent is collected at the signing of the lease, which is what most people will be selecting so that you can ensure that they have gone through the approval process before you go ahead and collect checks. The first month's check should be made up to REMAX Premier, and this is the clause that you'll be checking. And option 2, the first full month's rent is collected at the time of application. So again, this is not something that we recommend, but if it is chosen, the first month's rent will be collected at the time of application, and this is the paragraph. Again, we want to include the Megan's Law disclosure. This is to ensure that people are aware of the sex offender list and what's around the property. Again, here is the URL for the sex offender for Virginia. You can check to see if any of your neighbors or people have moved in that's close to your property are on the sex offender list. This is also going to be provided for the tenants. Lead-based paint is for homes built on or before 1978 and will require this pamphlet brochure to be included. So let's go over what your agents will be doing. So your agent task is to complete the rental property input sheet. This is to ensure that we can do the online application. It will have all of that information to get that process going. They will go ahead and do the data entry into the MLS, and our system is called Bright MLS. Then he or she will ensure all forms contain proper signatures and then package all the documents up for delivery. Then the agent will send this to a transaction coordinator and the broker. Now, REMAX Premier provides a transaction coordinator who verifies each document to make sure that it's complete and ready for processing. Then the link for the application, for the online application, is generated and emailed to the agent. Once the agent receives this link, he or she will go ahead online to the MLS system and enter that information along with some instructions for the interested tenants or the agents. Then your online application is ready. There is currently a $50 per person application fee. And if you have any questions about this, please discuss this with your agent. So once the application link is added to the Bright, you'll see that it will syndicate to hundreds of different websites so that it will be available for people to search and find your property. So let's go over the rental the tenant process. In this one, we're just going to go over the tenant rental process. So there are potential clients and they may or may not have a tenant agent. Once a tenant or interested tenants are interested in your property, they'll go online and fill out the application form. Again, there's a non-refundable application fee that is collected. The tenants complete the application and pay for the application fee, and then your agent will receive a notification from NTN about the application. Once the agent receives the application, they'll notify the landlord, and once the landlord reviews it, the agent will ask if it should be processed for NTN credit analysis. After the processing of the NTN, there'll be a report generated. Here you see two different NTN report. So we wanted to cover one that was rejected and one that was accepted, just so you can see a sample application and the scoring and the information that is provided. So in this one, you can see that there is a 55 applicant score, which is in the reject category. And then there is the rental recommendation section up here where it says reject applicant based on some of these criteria. So you can see here there was an eviction filing. And then you can actually come down here and look at some more details. On the bottom here, you can see the tenant performance information. Obviously, there was apartment damage, eviction required, etc. So this is why NTN will say or recommend to reject this applicant. Now, on the other end, there's another one that has an applicant score of 95, but it has some language here, except with conditions. So you need to understand to look at these and be okay with it. For example, the minimum employment verification required, rent to income is not verified, and then it tells you all about the different scoring options. So in some cases, they may not have credit history or rental history, so you'll have to make a decision. Those are the types of things that you'll need to discuss with your agent and make decisions on. So the agent will send to landlord for acceptance or rejection. Then it's up to the landlord to make that decision after reviewing everything. If the tenant is rejected, then your agent will send a notice to the tenant applicant, and he or she will include the letter from NTN only. And then he or she will send a notice to their agent, but not include the letter, simply saying that the application was rejected or denied. If, however, they're approved, the agent will send a notice to the tenant and the agent, and will draft up the required lease, and will update the MLS with application received. After the application is accepted, the lease is created, and they can sign either online or in person through DocuSign. Once the application is accepted and the lease terms are agreed upon, your property will officially be rented. Now the next step is the walkthrough. We always recommend that the landlord and the tenant should attend the walkthrough together if possible. That way you can walk through the property, look at the condition of the property, and ask any questions or answer any questions. You can also discuss where certain locations for different things may be, such as the mailbox, the storage keys, etc. We always recommend that you take pictures for both the landlord and the tenant of the property at the time of the walkthrough, just to make sure that the information and the condition will be documented. The next step is the insurance, to make sure that there is renter's insurance in place, both for the landlord and the tenant, to ensure that they're properly protected. You'll have to contact your insurance agency to make sure that you have the required insurance to protect you as a landlord, and you can ask for a copy or confirmation that your tenant has renter's insurance in order to cover the tenant's possessions. Utilities will be turned on. If the landlord is paying for the utilities, you may not have to do this, but if you're going to have the tenants pay for the utilities, you'll need to call the utilities and ask for the final reading so that it can effectively switch over to the tenants. And then the tenants will need to get online and switch the utilities on their day name on the day of the occupancy. Keys and deposits. The tenant will receive keys to the property, and landlord will receive the security and pet and any other deposit that are due. Again, this is for REMAX Premier, and if you have any questions, please contact your Premier agent from REMAX Premier, and if you have any other questions, please let us know, and make it a blessed day. Thank you.